is the best exercise for training shoulders?
Standing barbell overhead presses, if you can do them. And there are some people who can't. I do concede that. But that's not most people. And if it is you, you'll know. But yeah, people are allergic to training shoulders in general. It's an interesting phenomenon I've noticed. And I remember going back in the old student room forums in like 2010 when I was at uni, reading about people's 3 day. They do a 3 day split routine, which is just strange to do. If you're going to do a 3 day program, it should be something like push pull legs, but they would train legs and shoulders together, and the shoulders need their own day. You know, it's something a rule to live by because developing the shoulders actually is easily the fastest way to make a big difference in how you look in and out of clothes because it broadens, it increases the V taper, applies to both men and women. So yeah, standing barbell overhead presses if you can do them. If you can't, probably side laterals done for high reps. By high reps, I mean sets of 25 to 30 reps. Do those. It's like putting a bicycle pump into your deltoid and blowing it up. They work really well. And you do kind of 150 to 300 total reps of that in a session and do that for 2 months. And it's pretty much impossible for your shoulders not to grow. So there we are.
What is the best squat and or your favorite squat?
Objectively, the best squat is a barbell back squat. This is really quite a boring podcast so far because it's just basic stuff, isn't it? But
Why is the back barbell back squat
well, because
the best?
you can move the most amount of weight with the barbell back squat. As simple as that. And obviously, strength being the foundation of all athletic ability, to quote Mark Ripperto, it's a foundational exercise. It challenges the body in all sorts of different ways. Um, Now, where it falls down perhaps is in the aesthetic department, because if you do too much back squatting and not enough kind of, not working in front squats, sissy squats, things like that, you can end up with a fat ass
Mm-hmm.
and thick hips, which obviously isn't good from a kind of a bodybuilding perspective. But no, if you could only ever do one squat, it should be a barbell back squat, taken as deep as you can manage it. Whether it's low or high bar, it doesn't really make a difference. Um, it does make a difference in that most people can squat more with a low bar squat, but if you can't do low bar squat or it feels uncomfortable for you, like I struggle with it because I've got very short femurs, so I do a high bar squat instead. But no, barbell back squat taken as deep as you can take it, do lots of those, and you struggle to go far wrong really.
I mean, you change it up with the squat form every now and again just to do cool shit, right?
No, I don't really. I don't. No, I don't ever do that just to do cool stuff. I have to because I've been training for so long and squatting week in week out without fail. I've picked up various little impingement. I've got particularly impingement in one of my hips that flares up from time to time from barbell back squatting with my preferred form. So I'll generally flick it through to a swap to a front squat or a much more narrow back squat. But no, I don't just switch things up for fun and lols. That's not what training is for. It's also how you hurt yourself. So
Are machines for wimps?
no, no. There's a there's a funny. Sorry, I just need to move your phone because it'll pick up on the mic. Are machine swimmers? No, they're not. Um, there are terminally online powerlifting types who can't squat their body weight who will say that they are, and also say that training arms is gay and stuff. I don't really have a lot of time for people who think that way. Machines are absolutely not for wimps. They fill a vital niche in your training. There are certain things you can do on machines that you can't do with barbells and dumbbells, for example. Um, and in some cases, machine exercises are just flat out superior to a free weight variation. A prime example of that would be a Nautilus pullover machine versus using a dumbbell pullover. Dumbbell pullover is a great exercise, but Nautilus pullover machine is objectively superior in every way. Other things as well, like getting enough reps in of back training. So we talk about 2 pulls for every push. Um, it's much easier to do that using to supplement your barbell work with machine work. So seated rows, lat pull downs, that sort of stuff, um, and actually get those the reps of pulling significantly higher than your reps of your pushing you're doing, which is important for long term health of the shoulders and the back, injury prevention, that sort of thing. So no, they're absolutely not for wimps. There is I'll caveat that slightly. So you do get some people who Well, a classic example is this guy. He used to. He's taken himself out of my world now. But he used to email me every now and again. And one of the things he would do is he said his workout was he'd go into the gym and just do a random selection of machine exercises, like one for each body part. And he'd do like one set of each of like 15 to 30 reps, and he'd be done in like 8 minutes. And then he was like, "Well, why am I still fat? I don't understand." So you get people like that who don't who use them as excuse to like not really train, but to feel like they're doing something. But no, if you use them sensibly for what they're designed to do, then they're bloody brilliant.
If somebody wanted to set up a home gym, what equipment would you suggest they start with? In what order?
High quality Olympic barbell and either a pair of squat stands, so freestanding squat stands, but ideally some sort of rack or power cage. You can get them quite cheaply. I mean, when we kitted out the gym, my gym that I used to own, cost me about 2 grand to get a couple of squat cages from Strength Shop. They're a really good online retailer. They sell some really good kit. We still, knocking on the door nearly 10 years later, we're still using one of those racks.
Mm.
So my mum's garage is a really robust bit of kit. Yeah, and a good quality barbell, Olympic barbell, and then plates. That'd be where I would start. And that's kind of all we use now, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's a rack gives you a
Yeah,
lot of options.
and then you just buy little bits and bobs. Like we've got some light dumbbells, which are really good for things like the lateral raises that I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, and also stuff like I've got a bit of golfer's elbow, and I find doing wrist curls is really helping that for some reason. I probably should look into why. It's just working really well. I read about it in a forum post as a golfer's elbow treatment, and so I thought I'd just give it a shot because I had nothing to lose. Because it was getting to the point where I was needing to cover my elbows in frozen peas after I trained, and yeah, just like 4 kilo vinyl dumbbells we've got. You can the things I'd steer clear from are like cheap machines, like multi gyms and stuff.
Hmm.
Again, I'm not against, as you know, I'm not against machine works. I'll just explain why I'm not. But I'm definitely against cheap machines. Just they don't last and they don't feel good. And yeah, money is much better spent on getting more plates and stuff. So
There's not much you can't do with the setup we've got, is there? Like a squat rack
yeah, 'cause it's
bar
not
and a
integrated.
bench.
It's got an integrated pull-up bar. Yeah,
I was
you don't
going to
even
say
really need a
pull-ups.
bench. Like, do you know the bench for weightlifting wasn't really used widely until like the 30s. There's just everything from the floor, like mostly overhead pressing, got floor pressing as well. But like, you don't really even need a bench. You can perfectly good workout in without a bench.
What about cardio machines?
No, there's a road outside. Use it. Maybe invest in like a X gym spin bike. So if it's really rainy or you live in somewhere where you're likely to get jumped and gang raped or something by
Being out
strange,
in the
yeah,
dark.
strange people out in the dark. But no, other than that, the road exists, so use it.
I've suggested a number of times we get a treadmill or a walking pad, and every time you've said,
Just go outside.
nah.
Just literally go outside. These things don't get used either. I find people buy them, they don't use them. They buy them, they don't use them. So yeah, just go for a walk outside.
Cool. Do you need weightlifting shoes?
No, you don't need them. A lot of people could do with them, but they don't need them. Um, they're handy if you squat and you struggle to hit depth. If you struggle to hit proper depth and you're the sort of person who kind of wants to put their heels up on some plates, please don't do that. It's really dangerous. Like really dangerous. I've seen someone break an ankle doing that. And actually, I'm not joking. I've seen someone break an ankle at a commercial gym doing that. So yeah, don't do that. But if you do struggle to hit depth, then buy a pair of weightlifting shoes. Brands like Dowin, who are the Chinese, I think they used to supply the Chinese weightlifting team, and Adidas are pretty good staples. They're relatively inexpensive, like 100 quid
Mhm.
for a pair of them. And I've got a pair of Dowins that have lasted me since 2010, and they're still as good as the day I bought them. But yeah, no, you don't need them, absolutely not. But some people benefit from them. You can something I will say as well. If you do buy them, just be wary of becoming reliant upon them. Like I couldn't squat without my weightlifting shoes for a good number of years, and they were allowing me to avoid dealing with some mobility problems that I had
Why did the shoes have that impact?
because they basically flex your ankle. Yeah,
Because they've
and
got a little heel.
yeah, and they allow you to slot down deeper without rolling forwards onto the balls of your feet.
Right.
Um, but that if you've got tightness in the hips like I had that was causing me lower back pain,
Mm.
they allow you to get mobility that you're not technically entitled to have. Um, and you can squat perfectly fine with them. I would squat beautifully deep. You remember seeing I would squat
Mm.
beautifully deeply with the weightlifting shoes on, but without the weightlifting shoes on, I was all over the place. And since addressing that, and now I can squat comfortably just in whatever I'm wearing. The weightlifting shoes are helpful, and I can squat more in them, but I can still do basic squatting without them. Similar attitude to I have towards like belts and stuff.
Mhm.
Like belts are great, but the purpose of a belt is to help you lift more weight. I kind of group weightlifting shoes in that the purpose of weightlifting shoes really should be to help you lift more weight. Like I can, the number of people I see wearing belts and they can't squat what 50% of their work weights without a belt on because they've just got no core strength or anything like that. They've just not developed it. So
Mm.
so yeah, that's my thoughts on weightlifting shoes.
What about resistance bands? How do you use them in your training? What do you do?
Resistance bands. I don't really, do I? I mean, I use them for like face pulls. I often they're handy to have like in the office, so you can just do some sets of face pulls or band pull aparts just to again get the amount of pulling you do every week up for upper back health. But yeah, I don't really use them in training. Like people use them for like band assisted pull ups, and which is absolutely fine. It's a pathway to being able to do proper pull ups. But no, I don't. I see some of those like fancy band contraptions and stuff. I'm very wary of things like that.
Oh yeah. Didn't your parents get something?
Yeah,
A
like
very
like a
fancy.
multi it's like a multi gym, but it's not a multi gym because it's not a machine. It's
I've
just
never
a
hit with it.
contraption. You attach bands to it, and you can do all the. Yeah, I don't like that sort of thing. That looks like it gets sold at 3 o'clock in the morning on QVC.
Yeah,
You know,
I know
just
exactly what you mean.
stay away from that stuff.
And then last question: what about stretching?
What about stretching? Um, yeah, just like do it. It is. There's people. there's- Not people generally, actually. I think most normal people are pretty receptive to what I say here, but there are certain people in the fitness industry who have a real hard on for dissing stretching and how it's not that good and stuff. And yes, it's true that the evidence shows that if you stretch before you train, peak force output is reduced. So the amount of force you can generate in your muscles goes down. But I don't know people in the general population who need peak force output to get a good workout. We're not talking about professional athletes here. They may identify as a professional athlete, but they ain't a professional athlete. You've got people who've been sitting at a desk all day getting tight, people who have been driving cars all day getting tight, and a little bit of stretching, the sort of stuff that you did at school before and after training, in my experience, massively reduces the incidence of injury and also reduces chronic pains, aches, chronic aches and pains that people tell you are part and parcel of daily life. They're actually not. They're actually not. So, yeah, I stretch before I train and after I train, or at least I try to. Like I say, I do it every time. But I have noticed that when I do it consistently, everything, performance in the gym goes up in aggregate. I'm less in less pain, that sort of thing. Likewise, clients of mine report fewer injuries. Well, my clients don't really get injured, do they? But like, if, yeah, they report fewer aches and pains. They find moving a lot easier. So yeah, stretching. There's nothing wrong with it. There's a reason that they had you do it in PE.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think there's a resistance to that. It's too simple, you know.
yeah.
And on that note, I've not really got much else to say because I'm very distracted today because the kids are in the next room. So yeah, if you managed to get through this particularly awful episode of the podcast, you probably should subscribe to the channel. And if you're not on my email list, get on the email list. The URL to do that is philtimer.co.uk. The opt-in form is right at the top. Just plonk your email in there, and I will invade your inbox on a daily basis. And on that note, I shall see you. Won't be seeing you. It's audio, isn't it? Well, you'll hear me again soon.